Hello everybody and welcome to Thursday's edition of the Breakfast Club with Got That Funk. Thank you for joining me. Sorry I missed last week. I have friends visiting from America for the last day on Thursday, so I was out for dinner with them. And then on Friday I was straight away after work I had to go to a wedding in Cornwall, which was like a 10-hour bus journey, and by the time I got myself packed it was time to go. So sorry about that. Anyway, very pleased that everybody's been making videos this week so far, and thank you for that, everyone. I appreciate the effort. And I was, in fact, going to talk about a different subject than what I'm going to talk about in this video. I've been itching really to talk about the two things really: the children that get ripped from their parents coming into America, and also the fact that it's been sort of recently revealed that as many as 4,600 and something people died in Puerto Rico, whereas the government's official estimate is 60. And I think it's obscene that, I will say this much about those two things. At the time that was coming out, it was also the same sort of time in the news cycle where the story that Roseanne got canceled was coming out. And the whole Roseanne thing just completely overtook the news coverage, and that's the media dropping the ball. I'm sorry. There's got to be. I can't believe stuff like that happens without some kind of agenda. The media is the tail that attempts to wag the dog way too often for my comfort, and I think the media is well overdue for some serious regulation and restriction, not necessarily to curb free speech, but to set certain standards that have to be adhered to, because at the moment. What they choose to cover and what they don't choose to cover is, always open to question. Has been since before I was born, But it's especially true with rolling 24-hour news stations and the way that they've evolved since the 90s. Yeah, we've got a problem with the media, and that's a topic for a separate video. Anyway, I think it's obscene about the kids being ripped away from their parents. I think it's obscene that many people can get killed in a hurricane and there's still a completely inadequate response, and there has never been an adequate response, for well over 6 months. More than half the people didn't have power, etc., etc. But like I say, that's not what I wanted to talk about, and I've already spent 2 minutes talking about it. Anyway, my goodness, I do apologize. On Tuesday, SisterDanger made a video, which she streamed at the time, and I appreciate the fact that since you're busy, but you're still making a video for us, and I think that's fantastic. And I want to chime in about your whole, the portion of your video which had to do with the whole Antifa and how they taint protests, goals, and stuff like that. A few weeks ago, as you probably noticed, I made a video called Don't Wear Masks to Demonstrations, and I think I made myself pretty clear in that video. I'm pretty sure you must have seen it. That I don't really agree with wearing masks at demonstrations. I think the word demonstration necessarily implies that you, as a person, as an individual, as an identified individual, are supposed to be there. You're demonstrating. That's kind of like implicit in the word to me. And I also think it's a fair assumption to make that even though some people wearing masks might be wearing it for what they think is their own protection or something like that, at the end of the day, you look suspicious by definition. You look like you're out for trouble. Whether you are or not is irrelevant because you look like you are. So there's that. And also, my main objection to wearing masks, and this is why I don't believe anything when it comes to Antifa, is because if you are going to set up a group, whether your goals are good or not, if you're going to set up a group of people to go to demonstrations, and your calling card is covering your face with a bandana or some other kind of balaclava or something like that, some kind of full face mask, that is so open to infiltration. It's so open to people who disagree with your point of view just putting a mask on and fucking things up to make you look bad. And therefore, I can't believe anything that gets attributed to Antifa, because just because someone's misbehaving with a mask doesn't necessarily mean they're Antifa. It just doesn't. You're wrong to assume that. You'd also be wrong to assume it's not Antifa. You don't have any information because the person's not identifiable. And I think that's probably partially their point, of course, but my point is that that's actually, not just a bad thing in terms of you don't know who to blame for the crimes necessarily. But it's also a stupid thing because, like SisterDanger quite rightly points out, if you actually are there for some sort of ethical purpose, you're not behaving in an ethical way, and therefore you undermine the message that you're trying to send, regardless of its validity. And that is super, super unfortunate. I would also point out, I'm sure SisterDanger is already aware of this, but I would also point out that there's a long history going back centuries of people using the cover of large crowds to misbehave in one way or another. And there's also been a long history of political agent provocateurs who go to demonstrations pretending to be someone on the side that they're not, and trying to make the side that they're that's demonstrating look bad, get them in trouble so that they have an excuse to sort of clamp down. That's an old trick that's been going on for a long time. So I'm automatically suspicious whenever there's sort of violence at demonstrations. The vast majority of people at demonstrations go to demonstrations with the intention of being peaceful, and it's really unfortunate, and I think it somewhat vandalizes a demonstration when people show up with masks on, and people are waiting to see if and when something kicks off. And the only time I personally ever seen people with masks was at the last demonstration I was at, when I was at the counter protests on the Day of Freedom rally, and I was there to protest against Tommy Robinson's presence at the rally and the brand of bigotry that he sort of promotes. Anyway, don't want to digress on that point at the moment, but suffice to say, at that rally there were about 5 or 6 people wearing a mask in the counter-protest side of the situation. And they all seem to be young adults, and they're either late teens or early 20s kind of a thing to me. And I don't know whether or not they came to cause any trouble. They didn't make any while I was there anyway, and I was there for like 3.5 hours. But that's almost irrelevant to the point. I don't think it sends good a message. I don't think it's good for your own personal safety to wear a mask at a demonstration. And as far as whether or not Antifa legitimately exists, I can't even say. I mean, whether people communicate and make make decisions together and organize their way of what they have plans for going to demonstrations and so on, I can't say because, like I said, it's so open to infiltration that, to me, I just can't trust anything about it. I think that's prudent, frankly. When you can't identify who's doing what or why, it's better to reserve judgment until you have more facts. And just because, like I say, there are some people who decided to call themselves Antifa, I mean, that whole thing could be a complete ruse. I mean, I hate to be conspiratorial about it, but you just never fucking know. That's the thing, especially in the age of the internet. So, yeah, I'm just automatically suspicious of stuff like that. I don't buy into Antifa did this or Antifa did that. They may have done, they also may not have done, and someone's trying to pin it on them. And without sort of direct information of who's doing what, which individuals are doing what, I choose to reserve judgment. And that's not always easy. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents on that conversation. I want to thank everybody for sticking around, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. I think Sue Angel Rider's here for the guest slot tomorrow on The Breakfast Club, and hopefully we'll get JJ Talks back on Saturday. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.